Hello, APUSH people out there. How you doing? Okay, going live here. We're going to be talking about the antebellum period here. We're going to have a lot of fun here. Hopefully we get lots of interaction here, and you're all ready to learn about this exciting time here. I'm going to be sharing a lot of stuff with you. I have down below here, I have some resources here. I have the slides, I have the worksheet, and I even have a little formative assessment at the end. So we have quite a few things here. Might have to do some of those things like the formative assessment in another way here, but let's get started here. I'm going to start sharing here. Okay, so I'm going to share there with you. Okay, and hopefully everybody sees what I'm doing here. So I'm going to start off with a little music here to kind of start off here. Been here at work for over 13 hours, so need a little pick-me-up. This from Ben Sounds. I always like to start with a little music here. I don't even know what it is, but it's kind of like some alternative rock type sound here. And so it's called Rumble, and I thought it would be a good name because we have a Rumble coming up here. So I thought that that would be a good little start there. So again, we're going to try to make this as interactive as we can. And how's everybody doing? Can everybody see my slides? Okay, let's make them into the present mode here so they're a little bit bigger, and hopefully everybody can see them pretty good here. All right, so we're going to be talking, like I said, about the antebellum period here. And what period are we talking about here? So what time frame and all that? We're going to get into that in just a second. Fiveable, we're all over social media and different things here, but Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, you know, hopefully you follow Fiveable on these things. What is Fiveable? Fiveable is really the Twitch for the AP student and for other students they're wanting to get help in various things. So like Twitch helps people, gamers, learn different things, different moves, things like that. Here, what we do here is at Fiveable, we help you learn the things that you need to be successful here on AP test and in the courses as well. All right, who am I? Okay, I am Patrick DiFilippo. Okay, you can follow me at Twitter at DiFilippo APUSH. I'm in my 20th year. I can't believe that. That makes me sound very, very old. But and you're probably looking at me and saying he is very old. But 20 years. I work in a relatively diverse area here in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. I teach students with a variety of backgrounds. I'm in my 17th year of teaching APUSH, or in terms of it, teaching APUSH or honors. I went to, so I have everything up here. I have all my education, my whole life up here. So the only thing I don't think I included was my information on my grade school. That's about it. But high school wise, I went to Nazareth Academy here. Okay. All right. Ooh, nice, Sarah. Okay, we're going to go back a little bit further even, but you are definitely on the right track there. You know, it kind of leaves a lot of room there. We'll talk about what time frame. I went to Nazareth Academy, which is a western suburb school of Chicago here. And then for college, I went to Western Illinois University. I majored in history, minored in English, and okay. All right. And then we have Benedictine University is where I got my master's. And then I got a second master's from Governor State University. They are the Jaguars now, which I don't even think they had a name back then. So those are a little bit about, that is a little bit about my education there. Writing is a big emphasis for me. I am the head coach of the journalism team. I am the yearbook head advisor there and the video club sponsor. So do a lot of writing in here, and that's really the big emphasis for me. All right, let's get into some other things here. All right, our main learning targets here. So our main learning targets there, we got that little video there, little GIF, right? GIF. And see yourself as a penguin or something. You see yourself as a penguin or something. I'm not sure in terms of that, Nina. Don't really think of myself as one. I hope I don't look like a penguin. But you know, in terms of it, I have dressed as one on vacation on occasion. All right, let's take a look here. Similarities and differences, and regional attitudes here. We're going to be taking a look at that. We're going to be taking a look at all the tension that comes up here during this time, during the antebellum era. All right, let's continue here. All right. We have, here's the things that we are going to be covering here. What is the antebellum period? We are going to be dealing with it in context here. Okay, we are going to, as we're going along here, we are going to be talking about life in the North, life in the South. We are going to be taking a look at the Missouri Compromise. We're going to be taking a look at the American system, nullification crisis, war with Mexico, abolitionists, and compromise of 1850. So those are all things we are going to be dealing with here. Okay. We're going to try to make this interactive here. Coming up here, I have a lot of questions for you. So we're going to see what you know here. First of all, before we get started, I always like quotes here. And this from Frederick Douglass: the life of a nation is secure only while that nation is honest, truthful, and virtuous. Okay, and again, that's by Frederick Douglass there. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. And this just kind of get us warmed up a little bit here before we get started here. What do you normally use in your classes for document analysis? In my class, we use Hippo. What do you guys use? Okay. All right. Zoe, Hippo. Good. All right. Hip. All right. Okay. That one I don't know here, Elizabeth. Can you explain it quick, you think? ACAP, what do those stand for there? I'm kind of excited to know about that. So we're going to see if Elizabeth can answer what that acronym is. ACAP, I don't really know that one. Hippo is the one that we use in my class there. So the H is for historical context, the I is for intended audience, purpose, point of view, and outside information it is related to. Let's take a look at this document, right? This is what we really need to be able to do for, okay, audience, context, author's purpose, point of view. Okay, so, you know, those acronyms, they're very similar here. Taking a look here at this particular document here, this is kind of a little warm up here. This is kind of towards the end of the antebellum period here. And let's kind of start it here. Using contextualization, what is this picture referring to? I don't know how close you can see this here, but you see on the left and then you see on the right here. And it's supposed to be the same bird, okay? Supposed to be the same bird here. Anybody want to try this one for me here? What does it say at the bottom here? Okay. It says our national bird as it appeared when handed to James Buchanan in March of 1857. And then they're showing that bird as he is leaving office there. And it's supposed to be the same bird. So in context, what is it saying here? James Buchanan was the president before Lincoln. What is it saying here? What is this one saying here? Let's kind of hip it, or, you know, just give me a little context, you think, and maybe the point of view or the purpose of this cartoonist. Okay, I love political cartoons and being able to take a look at those. So what is he saying here? Okay. All right. Very good. That the states are starting to secede, starting to leave the Union. Good. All right. All right. Very good. So, he's saying that before, right, Buchanan was in there, that it was still together. And then, all right, like that, the government was now weak now afterwards there. Excellent. All of those things are right on that you said here. Here's what I kind of put in real quick here. I have the cartoon blaming Buchanan for his lack of action. The eagle was once fierce and proud. The eagle now has its head down, kind of a mangy looking bird at that point. And the country is kind of a shell of what it was once before. Okay. Everybody kind of getting the same kind of vibe of that cartoon there. Okay. Hopefully. All right. Let's get into some more here. All right. So first of all, what is the antebellum period? Some people go all the way back to the American Revolution to the Civil War, right? Which, would be 80 something years, right? 407 years ago, right? For us here, I decided I like it best when we think about it at the end of the War of 1812 and then goes all the way to the Civil War here. So there are some earlier things we have to keep in mind. We have to keep in mind that slavery increased. Why did slavery increase? The invention of what? I bet everybody's got this one here. You've heard this one here, right? The invention of what made that? I know it's on the slide there later on, but go ahead. Very good. All right, the cotton gin, right. So that made slavery really increase there. All right, so that is a big part of it, that slavery increased because of the cotton gin here. The War of 1812, or the Second War for Independence, as some people called it, the second victory over Britain. Okay, it does give us some nationalism, some feeling of accomplishment here. Our national anthem comes in there. This is one of my favorite national anthems, by the way, here. This is, I'll kind of go right to it and let you kind of see it a little bit here. This was from a long time ago here, I think in like 2007. But this is a young girl singing it at an NBA, I think it might have even been an all-star game. And she's singing it. And I just love this particular one here. And I might speed it up. Oh, here it is. Okay, so she forgets the words, right? I mean, that can happen to anybody, right? I mean, the pressure, she's probably younger than you. And the head coach here, Maurice Cheeks, winds up coming up there and tries to help her get through this here. All right, so that's one of my favorites there in terms of moments of the national anthem. It's a lot better than some of the goofy ones that have happened over the years. And, so I thought Lady Gaga a couple years ago in the Super Bowl had a really nice one. And also, a couple other things that come out of it. The idea of manifest destiny, that starts to be a concept, right? Sea to shining sea, that becomes a concept here. It ushers in the era of good feelings. There's going to be one political party. The Federalists are going to kind of do themselves in when they did the Hartford Convention. They're seen as, kind of traitors. We have the Monroe Doctrine that comes, that kind of shows that we're on our way to being more of a power in the world. It warns other European powers to stay out of this side here. We have the Second Great Awakening going on, so there's a whole bunch of reform movements. Biggest reform movement is, of course, abolition. North and South don't see eye to eye on many things here. So this is all part of the antebellum era. All right, we're going to start with the North first. Life in the North. Okay, who's on top of the social structure in the North here? You guys are going to be asked a lot of questions here. We're going to be real interactive here. So who do you think is kind of on top of the social class here in the North? Who is at its highest? Okay, we're covering a lot today here. So we are You're going to be ready for, period 4 and end of period 5, a lot of this. So a little bit of both. Okay. Oh, manufacturers. Nice, Zoe. Okay. Manufacturers. Good job. That is a big one here. Okay. Manufacturers, the business people are going to be on top. Let's take a look here. All right. So wealthy business people, then they're going to be followed later on by, by various working class and servants, urban poor, free African Americans. We have farmers in there as well. They're kind of after the small farmer there, probably somewhere around the working class there too. All right. The North is largely small family farms. So who provides the labor? The family, right? Why do you go to school for only 9 months? What are you supposed to be doing? Right? Why 9 months, right? They're just thinking, you're supposed to be at water parks and stuff like that. Vacation. Why do we go to school for 9 months? What are you supposed to be doing? Okay. You're supposed to be right out there working the farm, right? You're supposed to be working the farm. Okay. In the North there, okay, smaller farms, subsistence agriculture, food, crops, livestock. That's really what they're working on here. Slavery was not a profitable business in the North there. Some slavery did exist. Oh, yeah, might have helped with your Unit 5 test there. You will be able to see them now here, I hope. And so we have slavery not profitable there. Where did the industrialization come in? Well, we have people like Samuel Slater bring over some ideas of the factory system over to America here. We have in Lowell, Massachusetts, we have textile factories taking off here. The North has, I call it like the idea of a one-trick pony. The South is kind of a one-trick pony, whereas the North has a variety of industries here. It has shipbuilding, fishing, all different types of lumber, agriculture, trade. A lot of big cities start to form in the North here. We have Boston, New York, Philadelphia, St. Louis, and where I am from are outside of Chicago. So we start to have some bigger cities growing. When they work in these industrial places, we're talking dangerous. I'm going to show you a picture later on. It's going to be dangerous. Strong transportation network. We're going to have canals, railroads, etc. And they're going to favor more national government, more of a nationalistic program. All right, good. All right, so hopefully you got life in the North. So then where do you think we're going? Life in the South. Who was at the top of the social ladder in the South? Who do you think, and has been for a while? Okay, who is in the top right? Plantation owners. Good job. All right, nice. Okay, plantation owners, good job. All right, let's take a look here. All right, I made this nice little graphic using Canva here today. And I wanted to add some little graphic to it to help us kind of understand it here. And so the plantation economy dominates Southern life. So who's at the top? The rich landowners there, okay? Otherwise known as they're the planters, the Tidewater gentry, right? People in my class, they hear that often there. And people with at least 20 slaves, they're at the top here. They have a lot of political influence. They are at the top here. It dominates life. Plantation economies dominate life. What are they in? Tobacco, sugar, cotton, rice. Okay, we have large farms there are really central. There are also small farms, and but the problem is most of the small farms are in the poor lands in the mountains, right? The backcountry farmers, right? What are some rebellions we've heard about with the backcountry farmers? I know Buthina has heard of a couple there. Maddie, what are some other ones here? And I'm sure some of the other people have heard of them. Vicky and Zoe and some of the other people here. Okay, so what are some of the backcountry earlier? We're going to do a little throwback here. I do Throwback Thursday in my class, so throwing this back a little bit. What are some earlier backcountry rebellions? Right, one goes all the way back in the 1600s. There. Okay, excellent, excellent. Bacon's Rebellion. Okay, right. Nathaniel Bacon's Rebellion. Nice. All right. We have Bacon's Rebellion. We have other ones. Paxton Boys, Regulator Movement, Whiskey Rebellion. So there have been a lot of kind of backcountry rebellions for various reasons there over the time. So they favored strong states' rights, right? We're back to our Federalist versus anti-Federalist in a way. More sectionalist, rural agricultural setting there. A few big cities in the South, not as many there. Network of transportation is pretty bad, and they are very dependent on slavery. So let's go back to the Southern society there. So you got the rich landowners, you got the smaller farmers, you have the poor whites who often rent their land. Then you have free blacks, and then you have enslaved African Americans. What's the fear? If you are a free black in the South, that at any moment you can return to what? Slavery, right? So, voting or travel freely, things like that are not part of the life for the Southern free African American. All right, let's take a look at, we're going to now focus on the life of minorities here in the North here. So we're going to start off, we're going to talk about women here. Women did a lot, right? Women start working outside the home in factory jobs, right? They are called the mill girls there, right? They're paid an hourly wage. A lot of times it's not much, okay? Later on in the 1800s there, middle class women are going to see that they don't feel that there's these social norms and that they can't be part of some of these things, that their main place is in the home. That's called the cult of domesticity. Okay, and everything about the cult of domesticity is, really that a woman's place is in the home and the influence is on the family. And in terms of it, there, one thing that they could do that gave them some political power is the idea of organizing for some more women's rights there. So that is a big part of it here. We have other things to know about life in the North there. We have we have child labor. I was trying to get to this picture up here. If you see this picture in the upper right-hand corner, you notice that little boy is missing what? That little boy is missing his arm, okay, in all likelihood from an accident at one of the factories there. We have immigrants coming over, right? Does that make everybody happy? No, there's a lot of xenophobia at the time. People very afraid of the Irish. Do you see this second picture here? This second picture here basically is showing the Irish, and they make them, look like some kind of ape-like creature killing the golden goose, which is the Democratic Party. And so there's a lot of xenophobia. Groups like the Know Nothing Party come across. The immigrants, one of the complaints is that they're willing to work for low wages. The business people like that, obviously the business owners, that they will work for low wages. Now let's go into African Americans in the North. So free African Americans, people like Frederick Douglass. And Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, David Walker, they all write and do speeches and everything against the evils of slavery. How are you so far with life in the North between, between even subgroups like minority groups there, women, African Americans, new immigrants coming over, ethnic minorities. Again, there are some people who are afraid of the Pope and papal influence, all of those things. Is everybody good? You want to give me a little thumbs up? if you understand everything that I was talking about. There were lots of, Irish need not apply ideas out there. That sign might be a little bit of legend, but there's a lot of talk of that. All right, good. Excellent. Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay, anything I need to talk about some more starting off here? Hopefully we can move on to the next here. Now we're going to focus on the life of minorities here in the South. So let's take a look at that. All right, so again, the cotton gin slavery was kind of dying out by itself. Most European countries have kind of gotten rid of it, and slave trade was illegal in most places, so it was kind of just dying out naturally. But then the cotton gin came around. Okay, what the cotton gin does is it allows for more processing of cotton. Do you see that picture in the upper right-hand corner there? That is the cotton gin. It picks out all the seeds and everything, allowing for cotton to be processed quicker, and basically more slaves, more cotton, more money. So that's the way to think of it. The number of slaves in the South doubled. And, in terms of slavery, you can split it up. A lot of people do this here. One of the things I try to avoid is levels of bad. But, in the upper South there, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., a lot of the people were holding on to slavery, but they didn't feel like it was going to stay. They kind of had a negative view, maybe more abolitionist influence. They were reading more of the papers, things like that. They didn't think it was going to be a long-term thing. In terms of treatment, normally the treatment was even harsher in the South. In the lower South, obviously, both places are absolutely, the effects of slavery are devastating in both places. Take a look here what Frederick Douglass said about it. There is not a man beneath the canopy of heaven who does not know that slavery is wrong for him. All right, one of the most important things. So big tip here. So tip time, okay? Make sure that you understand all the important literature of the time. You have to kind of know the pop culture kind of references of each time period as you're going along. Okay, one of the most famous books at the time is Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin. There is a story that when Lincoln met Harriet Beecher Stowe, she was of short stature, so under like 5 foot tall, around that. My mom is like about 4'11". She's very short. So Harriet Beecher Stowe was a short woman, and Lincoln is a very tall man, about 6'4". And he said something along the lines of, "So you're the little woman who started this great war." Great meaning big war, the Civil War. So, that might be a little bit, and he was saying it tongue in cheek, but, she was a very important factor in this war. She brought it into people's homes how ugly slavery was. People who were slaves, people like Harriet Tubman said, I don't need a book to tell me this, but I'm glad that people who haven't lived through slavery now see it. Many abolitionists helped form the Underground Railroad, tried to organize and help people escape slavery in the South. Native Americans in the South, that's another big issue. Probably not as much. I know that our book kind of talks about it during Jackson, the Native Americans, and then goes all the way up to I think chapter 24, we use the American pageant. The next time they really cover Native Americans in a lot of depth here. But what you have to think about it is the Native Americans have been cleared out of this area. Why? What does Jackson do in the 1830s? What is that called? The Indian what? Does anybody know? All right. The Indian Removal Act. Okay, right? And that whole thing winds up being called what? What does it wind up being called? The Trail of what? Right, Trail of Tears. So hundreds die. Horrible event in American history. All right, thank you. You guys are doing a great job here. All right, so now where I'm switching to here is, so we have gone through life, right, north, life south, the life of women and minorities in both places. You know, one thing I didn't cover very well, I'm sorry, let me go back really quick here, is women's life in the South. What women often were focused on, so I did talk about Harriet Beecher Stowe and abolition, which women had a huge role in. I didn't really talk about the plantation mistress. That is something that I will definitely want to talk about here. And I'm not sure why the slides aren't there. I'll take a look at it again at the end there for you, okay? Taking a look at that, one of the big issues is that, you know, the women run the household too. So they are in charge a lot of times of the slaves there as the plantation mistress. So that was one part that I did not talk about there that I should have when it came to life there. All right, so now here's what I decided to do. So antebellum issues that are going to bring us to this war. So, you know, just going to bring us to the Civil War. It's the road to the war. Today I made like a little commercial on my Twitter, and I had a road in the background there because it's really the road to the Civil War. So let's take a look here. So Missouri Compromise. Missouri wants to come in as a slave state. What is that going to do? That's going to ruin what? You guys have been doing a great job. What's that going to ruin? What are they trying to keep there? Right, the balance. They're afraid that it's going to ruin this delicate balance that is there. So Henry Clay, who becomes known as the Great Compromiser, he comes in and he proposes the Missouri Compromise. This is in 1820, and what he does is he kind of makes a line of demarcation that no slavery above a certain latitude there. And so this is how it's going to be determined really for a long time, for the next 30 years, in terms of what to do with slavery in the territories. It is a temporary solution there. What they do is they bring in Missouri. Anybody know the other state that they bring in? Don't look up at the slide. You see it there. So they bring in, no, they don't bring in Mexico. We're going to be talking about Mexico soon. Not yet. Okay, Mexico is going to be the big issue. Texas, yep, Texas is definitely going to be. But at this point, it's going to be Missouri and Maine. Okay, you're kind of going a little bit ahead of where we are. You're right, though. We're going there very shortly. So the Missouri Compromise, big issue number one. All right. Big issue number two, the American system. All right, market revolution. So Henry Clay is back in here. Henry Clay is like a super important person here at this time here. Okay, never president, but tries lots of times. I don't quote me on this one. I believe he ran altogether 6 times for trying to be president. So, you know, I guess they say try and try. You know, I don't know, but he never does really succeed. But he tries. So that's the good point there. All right. So the American system comes in, right? So more wealth is going to the North. The North has 75% of the wealth. Is the South going to like that? No. And they often feel that, right, they often feel that the North is getting everything. Well, let's take a look at this American system by Henry Clay. So you have, you know, a lot of people saw it as a nationalistic system, right? And the South is more for states' rights. A high protective tariff that protects industry in the North. Okay, it means that people are going to have to buy it from the North. The Bank of the U.S., most of the branches are in the North. We have internal improvements like the Erie Canal, which built up New York City. The I&M Canal, which built up, anybody know what the I&M Canal built up? The 3rd largest city in America, at least right now. It's so cold right now in Chicago, right? Built up Chicago, right? It's so cold right now, right? That who knows, we might be 10th by the end of this winter here. But right now we are the third largest city in America, built up by the I&M Canal, which is right here on the southwest side. So let's take a look here. Tariffs are the most controversial. Here's the pro. If you're a craftsman, if you're a business owner, you like it. It means that your goods will be cheaper, right? If you're the head of Ford or GM, do you like tariffs on foreign cars, Toyotas, Hondas, etc.? Right? Would you be for that? Yeah, you bet, because then people are going to buy your Ford truck or your GM car over some other competitors. Okay, so that's the pro. The con is if you're in the South, right? If you're in the South, that's a tough one there because you have to pay more goods, right? Why do we go, right? In my class, I always say, why do we go to Walmart? Why do we go to Target? And people say Target is expensive, and it is at times. Why do we go to these places? Because things are, right? It's cheaper. Good, Bethina. It's cheaper. Okay? It's cheaper. So that makes things, that's why we go there. If there was a giant tariff on it, it wouldn't be cheap anymore, right? So the South is like, I want to go buy cheap. I want to go buy cheap goods. And right now, the North is kind of having a monopoly over them. All right, so big issue, Missouri Compromise. Big issue, too, the American system. And really the biggest issue, which we're going to keep talking about, is tariffs. Okay, who would like tariffs? Again, who would like tariffs again? Right? The North. The North likes tariffs. Good. Okay, the North likes tariffs. Okay. All right. So we have Andrew Jackson. We're in the middle of the Jacksonian age today. I showed a couple of videos that are kind of kooky. You know, they're kind of talking about Jackson and his love of dueling. On one video, it said that he killed between 13 people and maybe a couple hundred, depending upon who was keeping track there. But Andrew Jackson, the 7th president of the United States, kind of came in with a common man persona. Didn't have a lot of education, definitely from humble roots. And he is president there, and he comes in after a very controversial high protective tariff was enacted there. Okay, now even his own vice president, John C. Calhoun from South Carolina, does he like him? He does not. No, does not like him. Even one time, even on his deathbed, said one of his regrets was that he never killed John C. Calhoun. But anyways, John C. Calhoun was not. John C. Calhoun believed that South Carolina didn't have to listen to things. They feel like they made the Constitution, they made the federal government, so that they should be able to nullify things they don't like. So they thought that they can reject laws that they don't like. Okay, so the Southerners started calling this 1828 tariff the tariff of abomination. Now I put this here, the abominable snowman, because every time I talk about the tariff of abomination, right? There's this tariff of fear and everything. I think of this. Does anybody ever see the Rudolph Christmas one? I think it's claymation. Anybody ever see that? Okay, when I was a kid there, they used to scare me. Okay, all right, good. You've had good childhoods. Bethina, check it out. Or is that no for an earlier answer? Just if you see it sometime, just flip it on for a second. It's interesting. You got this little scary guy there. Good. So you have the abominable snowman, right? And it scares poor Rudolph and stuff like that. All right. So I always think about that. Actually, good question there by Sarah. He is a Democrat as well. He is a Democrat as well. But, he's from South Carolina, and Jackson is from Tennessee. And sometimes there's a little bit of a difference there. Sectionalism is a huge thing. What does Jackson think about it here? Jackson thinks that South Carolina is doing treason by even talking about it. And supposedly Jackson sends a message to some people and says, if he hears more about this nullification, that some people will be hanged. So what happened? South Carolina kind of kept it down a little bit, and a new 1832 tariff is passed, a little less in terms of a little less high, I guess is the best way to say. But to a lot of people in South Carolina, they still weren't happy. All right, so I remember being in grade school, right? And my teachers would always tell me, they said, the Civil War is about slavery. I've talked about 3 things that it's about, right? Slavery is definitely one of them, right? What are 2 other things that we've talked about? This is kind of like a review. Review. Okay, so what are the 3 things? All right, so 4. I didn't even think about that. Abolitionists, okay, that movement. Okay, it's about the North having more power. So there's what we call that sectionalism. Okay, so we have sectionalism, we have tariffs, we have slavery. Okay, those are the big things. The South feeling weak. They feel like the North gets everything. Okay, so not that my teachers were lying to me, but they gave me an incomplete story, right? You need to know that it's about tariffs. You need to know it's about sectionalism. You need to know that it's about slavery. And it's really all these things coming up at the same time. All right. Okay, I'm glad to get that abominable snowman off of there. I'm going to have nightmares. It's scary. All right. Well, we also have the war with Mexico. War with Mexico. So we have, this is such a long story here, so we're not going to spend forever with it. So Texas was originally, right, just real quick, Texas was a portion of Mexico, right? And then Mexico had a guy named Stephen Austin, who was a Southerner, come in, and the agreement is that no slavery, and the people would assimilate to the culture of Mexico. So they were to be Roman Catholic and things like that. So they come in. Do they have any intention of assimilating to Mexico? They do not. Okay. And they wind up bringing slavery in. So they didn't do anything that the agreement was. So eventually here, Texas is set there, and then Texas wants independence from Mexico. So there's a big war. Texas is now independent. The United States is afraid to bring it in. They're asking to be annexed. The United States is afraid to bring it in because they don't want war with who? Mexico. Right. Okay. And so, okay. Right. Very good. Excellent. So, in terms of it here, I'm just kind of making this as quick as possible here. And so we're kind of afraid of taking it in. Mexico doesn't feel that Texas's independence is even legit because they feel like Santa Anna was forced to sign. I think he signed it from prison. So in general, there's a big fear that if taking Texas in, plus Texas is a what kind of state that will ruin the balance again, just like Missouri, right? The balance. I'm trying to like show like a scale, like a teeter-totter type thing, right? Right. It is actually, right, it's a slave state, so they don't want to bring in the slaves. All right. Well, that is until James K. Polk gets in there. James K. Polk is an expansionist. He wants Texas. He also wants a whole bunch of other lands from Mexico. He wants New Mexico. It becomes New Mexico and California, etc. So he wants all of that. And what eventually happens, they decide that Texas should go all the way to the Rio Grande. And so there's a dispute about where Texas ends. Eventually, there's some skirmishes, and America has a war. The United States of America has a war. When the war is over, the United States of America will have manifest destiny here. We have now gone from sea to what? Shining sea, so across. So that is issue number 4. Why is it a big issue? Because now what to do with all this territory, right? All this territory is south of that line, right? A lot of it, we should say, right? So what's going to happen with slavery? All right. Now, big issue number 5. Abolitionist reform movements, all of this is going on here. So we have the Second Great Awakening, right? A religious awakening. Women have kind of put their own kind of rights and fighting for their own rights, kind of put that, as a secondary. They wanted to help African Americans. The movement is getting more violent, okay? John Brown. Does anybody know about John Brown? We're going to do a project on John Brown here in my class coming up soon here. It's going to be called Martyr or Terrorist. So John Brown. Does anybody know about John Brown? Okay, there's even a song about him that the Union would sing. John Brown. I'm not going to sing. I started to. But anyways, John Brown, one of the biggest figures in this abolitionist movement. Okay, he believed in violence for this movement. Okay, the Pottawatomie Creek massacre in Kansas is a violent killing of some people he suspects of being pro-slavery, and we are talking about attacking them with an axe. So a very violent, and then later on, he goes to Harper's Ferry to Virginia to try to start a slave revolt and is captured and unapologetic for what he had done. He believed that it was okay in terms of what he was trying to get. He was trying to end slavery, and he did not care that violence. It was he and his sons, so it was a little father-son outing, and a lot of violent clashes. Now, there is a good book, Lies My Teacher Told Me, and some of the words that they use for John Brown, ignorant and things like that, really probably don't fit, because he has a college degree. He was in Europe several times. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. Violent, some people can be very alert, and he was very alert and very aware, I think, of his violence, which is kind of scary in some ways there. But other people would argue that he was doing it for a good cause. We still have people like that in terms of different issues. You can think about some heated issues in which people have become even violent about, right? Caning in Congress there, that is Preston S. Brooks, who is angry at a speech there that was given here, and he attacked a northerner there with a cane there. You can see that it says Southern Chivalry here. And why is his name escaping me here? His name is escaping me here. I'm like that little girl there with the national anthem from the beginning there. And anyways, he attacks a northerner, Charles Sumner. I knew it would just take a second. And so, it sounds like, there's this, but it was a brutal attack here. Charles Sumner wouldn't make his return for a long time. Had to learn how to, walk and talk and that kind of stuff. So it was more than, some kind of silly fight in Congress. I'm thinking of like some of those. I think Singapore one time had a crazy fight, but I don't think anybody got hurt. I don't think. There were people jumping off of desks. Anybody ever see that? You can check that out on YouTube sometime. I thought about putting that in there for fun. I don't know if it's for fun. I don't know. People acting badly. Politicians acting badly. All right. A sixth issue is the Compromise of 1850, Fugitive Slave Act, Popular Sovereignty. I threw them all together. All right, so the 1850s are coming, right? And really things are getting more heated over slavery, right? We had the Missouri Compromise is now kind of thrown out. That war with Mexico has a whole bunch more land. There's just, it's getting heated. Stephen Douglas of Illinois has his ideas on, anybody know what his ideas are on? It's in the slide. What are his ideas? 2 words. Do 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 do. Come on, Stephen Douglas. Anybody? Anybody? All right. Okay, it starts with a P, and then the second word starts with an S. In the slide. Popular sovereignty. Okay. All right, there we go. Thank you, Bethina. All right, so popular sovereignty. All right, Maddie. Yeah, popular sovereignty. Okay, and what that means is voting on whether a territory should be free or slave. So it sounds, how democratic, right? How democratic. Of course, who can't vote? Slaves, the enslaved, people like that, so not really too democratic. And what happens is it's going to turn Kansas into a bloody place. I just talked about that in terms of John Brown. There's also a horrible new fugitive slave law that is going to punish people who help slaves escape. So that's going to be very unpopular in the South. And where are we at here as we're heading towards 1860? The North and South are on a collision. It's really, there's going to be no doubt that there's going to be a civil war once who gets elected in 1860. Who gets elected in 1860? Anybody want to take a stab at it? I know we aren't there in my class, but come on, he's from Illinois. He's important. He's tall. He's got a cool beard. All right. Thank you, Maddie. All right. So Lincoln. All right. Let's go to our final slide. All right. We're going to do a little recap here. We want to make sure we remember everything, right? Okay. Can you see that? It's kind of small. Okay. But the North, again, here's life in the North. Small farms, followed by, I'm getting real close here. I'm sorry. Followed by, they also have manufacturing here, fishing, shipbuilding, pretty variety of things in their economy. We have 75% of the nation's wealth in the North, strong transportation, railroads, choo-choos. We have more nationalistic in the South. There's a plantation economy, things like tobacco, sugar, cotton. We have large farms. We have some small farms in the mountains there. They favored states' rights. They're more sectionalist. Okay, they care about their region, right? You can see some. Anybody a college football fan out there? Okay, the SEC. Okay, all right, Maddie, you like it, right? You ever watch any games from like Alabama or LSU or Georgia? It's heated, but if you insult one of them, all right, Anthony, yep, you see that, right? If you ever insult one of them, right, they're always like, it's the best football, right? All right. Is that ISU is better? Is that Iowa State, Illinois State? Which one is that? ISU, Illinois State is pretty good in terms of, I think their division, what used to be, LSU. Okay, LSU. All right. Oh, that was an L. Okay, I was thinking, okay, LSU is good. Yeah, LSU won. Okay. But what I was talking about there in the sectionalism, right, is, and it still is like that, like they hate each other on the college football field, but like, if it's them versus like the Big Ten or something, they're like, hey, we are the best football. And so there are still some elements of sectionalism there, where they think of themselves kind of together, the Southeast. So, yeah, that's still kind of there. Is my analogy weird? A couple of you there do like the college football there. I love college football, like college game day on a Saturday. Aha. All right, Buthina, good question there. That is all in the 1840s there. Okay, so 1840s is when we get all that land pretty much west of the Rockies. Remember that in 1803, right, Buthina? What happened in 1803? We got all the land to the Rockies. What was that? Right? 1803, big purchase, $15 million. Good. Louisiana purchase, right? So then that's when we get to the Rockies. And then the war with Mexico is going to give us the southern part. Eventually, there's going to be deals and some of the land there in Oregon. We're going to have some claims there. Some other places are too. But eventually, really by the mid 1800s there, that is all part of America. It's just, where is it going to be? We're going to learn about 54, 40 or fight, some of those other things too. Where does Canada end? Where does America where does America end over there in the Pacific Northwest? Great question though. All right, let's take a look at issues. The North loves tariffs. The South hates tariffs. The North wants abolition. The South wants slavery. Okay, the North wants expansion of slavery. Wants to stop the expansion of slavery. The South wants to expand slavery. And fourthly, the North wants a strong central government and the South wants more states' rights. So do we see that, that we're going in two totally different directions here? And then the big issues again: Missouri Compromise, American system, nullification crisis, war with Mexico, reform movements growing, and the Compromise 1850 and all those other things that didn't quite work there in the 1850s. So how did I do today? Did we get through a lot? Do you feel like you know a lot about this era? The antebellum period is very, very important here. Okay, do you feel like you understand why we're about to go to the Civil War here? Okay, I'm happy that you tuned in. I really appreciate it here. Fiveable is here for everybody's needs here. When you click on Fiveable there, you can see something like 92% of students who spent time with Fiveable passed their AP test. What would that number be? Somewhere around 50. So the more you go to things like this from me and from other people here, the better off you will be. So make sure you check them out. And I really appreciate it here. Make sure that you follow me on Twitter at DiFilippo APUSH there. And I have this little Google form here. Let me share this with you really quick here. I don't know if you can see it here. I would love if you would answer this for me. It's just like a little formative assessment. I'm going to put it on here. And I just want you to answer the questions. There's only 4 questions. Formative assessment, super important there for, to kind of see if you're picking it up here. So I just want you to do that. That's pretty much it for me here. Okay. Again, I really appreciate all of you being on here. And I appreciate the answers that you did and all those things. If you can just click on this here, can you click on it? And there's like 4 questions really, really quick there. Just want to see if you got them, and I'll go and I'll kind of take a look here and see if you're getting them. All your responses are already coming in. Good. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So I'm just kind of looking at a couple of the responses there. Okay. The questions there, when is the antebellum period there? I kind of gave you what I think there and so forth. All right. I'm going to end this now here. So again, thank you. And if you can still fill out that Google form, I'd appreciate that, just so I got a little idea. Again, please share all these here on all your social media there. Okay. Good question there. All right, Anthony is from my class there and is asking about, no, absolutely, you don't have to. What you can do on that is just talk about the cotton gin and just say, we're going to need a lot of labor and it will provide, that we're going to need some probably more labor. Just say that. Don't, you definitely don't want to have anything that supports slavery on there. Okay. Did I answer your question there, Anthony? That's a good question there. All right. Could you share the slides? Yeah, let me see here. I kind of put them up there, but I think you have to have the, I think you have to have that. Why don't you, if you could, follow me at Twitter there at DiFilippo APUSH and ask me there, and let me find out, because there are some things they want for the plus, and and that might be one of them. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Okay, thank you.